All right, so get ready to dive deep as we explore mental health awareness, specifically the truly amazing work happening in Northeast UK. You sent over some really thought-provoking material for this deep dive,
Right.
a report on the region's mental health initiatives, and wow, the Northeast isn't messing around. They are fully committed to making a difference here. Instead of tiptoeing around the issue of mental health, they're tackling it head-on. And that's what makes this so interesting. We're going to discover how an entire region is changing the game, not just talking about it.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable. The thing that struck me is how the Northeast's entire approach is about understanding. The report starts with this powerful statistic. 1 in 4 adults in the Northeast experience mental illness. Now, I know statistics can sometimes seem a bit impersonal, but think about that for a second. 1 in 4. It's a really clear indication that something needs to change and fast.
Yeah, you can't just ignore a statistic like that. It's a serious wake-up call.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? Instead of being overwhelmed by that challenge, the Northeast saw an opportunity. They took that statistic and used it as a launch pad for a movement. A big part of that movement is tackling something we all know is a huge barrier. Stigma.
Yeah, it's like the elephant in the room.
Right. Exactly. For years, mental health has been brushed under the rug, treated like it's something to be ashamed of. But the Northeast took a stand and said, enough is enough. They knew that to make real progress, they had to confront the stigma surrounding mental health. And that's where it gets really fascinating.
Okay, so they see the problem, but what are they actually doing about it? Because, recognizing a problem and actually fixing it are two different things.
I couldn't agree more. They're not just putting a bandage on a deep wound here. They're going for a total transformation. The report talks about their multi-layered approach, which focuses heavily on solutions within the community. Things like support groups, peer networks, and these really innovative awareness campaigns. One that really stood out to me was Mind Your Head.
Oh, yeah, I saw that in the report, too. What is that exactly? Is it just another one of those catchy slogans?
Not at all. Mind Your Head is all about getting people talking. And not just whispering in the corners about it either. They're organizing events, workshops, even using art to get people engaged. Can you imagine going to the theater and seeing a play about mental health? How impactful is that? They're making these conversations normal.
That's actually really cool. Using art and creativity to get people talking about mental health. It's like breaking down those barriers in a way that feels natural and approachable. I love it.
Exactly. And you know what? It's working. But it's not just about encouraging people to open up. It's about making sure the support is there when they do. And that's where businesses come in.
Businesses. Usually when we hear about mental health in the workplace, it's about stress, leave, or burnout. Is this something different?
It's a complete 180. The Northeast is turning this script on its head. They're encouraging businesses to be proactive instead of reactive. We're talking about mental health training for managers, flexible work arrangements, access to counseling services. All of this is being integrated into the workplace culture.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you saying that companies are actually investing in their employees' mental health? That's practically unheard of.
Not in the Northeast. They're proving that a healthier workforce is a more productive workforce. It's not just about being altruistic. It's actually good business. And this is where it gets really interesting. They're really thinking long-term. They're not just focused on fixing things right now. The report highlights this really cool emphasis on prevention and early intervention. And they're doing that through education.
Okay, now that's thinking ahead. We're talking about actually breaking the cycle, right? But how do you even start to do that?
They're incorporating mental health awareness right into the school curriculum. And it's not just a one-time thing either. This is about giving kids the tools they need, the tools and the language to understand and manage their own mental well-being. And they're starting young, too. Teaching coping mechanisms, resilience, and fostering empathy. Just imagine the impact that's going to have in the long run.
Wow, that's huge. You're talking about raising a whole generation that's comfortable talking about their feelings. A generation that sees mental health as just another aspect of overall health.
Exactly. And they didn't stop there either. You see, the Northeast also recognizes that mental health can affect anyone. But getting help and support, well, that's not always so simple.
Right. Everyone's experience is different. And we have to consider the challenges faced by different communities.
Absolutely. The report specifically addresses the needs of different groups. Ethnic minorities, the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities. These are groups that often face additional obstacles when it comes to getting help.
So how are they making sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to access support?
They're getting really specific with their approach. They're making sure that services are culturally sensitive. They're offering materials in different languages and tailoring their programs. It's all about meeting the specific needs of these diverse communities.
Okay, so they're really trying to cover all their bases. This is seriously impressive stuff. But we can't really talk about this without mentioning the media, can we? I mean, the media has a huge impact on how we see things, mental health included.
You're absolutely right. The media can be a force for positive change, or it can be a huge roadblock. The Northeast gets that. And instead of just hoping for the best, they're actively working with media outlets.
So are they trying to control what the media says?
No, not at all. It's more about collaboration. They're providing training on how to use accurate and sensitive language when reporting on these issues. They're encouraging responsible reporting and building relationships between journalists and mental health experts. It's like they're saying, hey, let's all work together to make sure that mental health is portrayed accurately and with compassion.
It's about changing the whole conversation, isn't it?
Exactly. And, there's this quote from a journalist in the report that really stuck with me. They said, the media has a moral obligation to report on mental health in a way that informs, educates, and empowers rather than stigmatizes.
Powerful stuff. Okay, so we've talked about community initiatives, changes in the workplace, education, the media. It sounds like the Northeast is taking a really well-rounded approach. But listening to all this, it makes me wonder, where do I fit into all of this? What can I do as an individual to be a part of this change?
That is such an important question. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, but individual actions really do matter. The report emphasizes that.
Yeah.
It talks about the importance of personal responsibility when it comes to mental well-being. And it starts with understanding that it's not just about addressing illness, it's about building resilience and practicing self-care.
It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. And the great thing is the Northeast is putting resources behind those efforts too, offering things like mindfulness classes, outdoor therapies, resilience workshops, all designed to help individuals build those skills and prioritize their mental health. They're empowering people to take control.
I love that. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about giving people the tools to build themselves up. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to take care of your own well-being first. And the Northeast seems to really get that.
Yeah, it's so true. You can't help others if you're not taking care of yourself first. But one of the things that's really stood out to me is how the Northeast is tackling this from every angle. They're not just focusing on one piece of the puzzle. They're looking at the whole picture. What do you make of that?
It's incredibly impressive. I mean, they're not just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. They're really digging deep to understand what's causing these issues in the first place. The stigma, the inequality, the lack of resources. It's about changing people's attitudes towards mental health, making it something that's valued, not just something that people feel awkward talking about.
So it's about a real fundamental shift in thinking individually and as a society.
Exactly. And that's what makes the Northeast's approach so powerful. They're showing the world that change is possible. But it takes a multi-pronged approach.
That's right. We've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From community initiatives to changes in the workplace to the role of the media. It's clear that the Northeast is leading the charge when it comes to mental health awareness. But I bet some of our listeners are thinking, okay, this is all great, but can this work in other places too? What would you say to them?
That's a great question. And the report actually addresses that very point. You see, while the specific programs and initiatives might look different in different places, the basic principles are universal. It all starts with leadership, with a commitment from those in charge to make mental health a priority.
So it's about making it a core value, not just something you tack on at the end.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's about understanding that investing in mental health, it's not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. The Northeast is showing us that when we put mental well-being first, everyone benefits.
This has been an amazing conversation, so eye-opening. As we wrap things up, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with today? Something that they can really take away from this deep dive?
As I was reading through the report, there was one question that kept coming back to me. What if we approached every challenge in our lives with the same level of compassion, innovation, and dedication that the Northeast is bringing to mental health? Just imagine the kind of world we could create. That's something I'd like everyone to think about.
That's such a powerful question. And for our listeners, if you're feeling inspired, if you want to learn more about what the Northeast is doing or find resources in your own area, be sure to check out the show notes for links and information. This deep dive has been a real journey. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, you're not alone in this. Taking care of your mental health is a sign of strength, not weakness. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.